Hello and welcome to MSTV. I am Apurva Jha and you are watching our show Rubaroo. Today we are with us in our studio Mr. Wendell Addy. He is a founder of Africa Private Sector Summit. Sir, I'm welcoming you.
Thank you for having me here in your studio.
Sir, first of all, I want to ask you what is this private sector summit which you have founded over there in your country?
Well, firstly, it is the Africa Private Sector Summit. It is about facilitating trade on the continent, and it is about creating that enabling business environment for businesses, whether foreign businesses or local businesses, businesses on the continent to trade and do business freely within a conducive, enabling business environment. So that's what it's all about.
So, how important it is to have a free trade agreement between the countries or among the countries?
It's very important for several reasons. We have the Africa Union, which is the continental body that provides some governance direction for the continent. And they found it expedient to establish what they call the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. This body is responsible to facilitate trade within the continent and beyond. And so what we have done is that to establish the Africa Private Sector Summit to help to facilitate in the implementation of the various protocols under the AfTA trade agreement. By doing so, it sort of eliminates the fear and concerns that people have in doing businesses with one another within the continent, as well as it sets the tone to attract foreign direct investment in the continent.
Yeah. Sir, in India, we have something called Startup India.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of campaign we are running, our government is running, where students or people who are having a innovative mindset or innovative idea with them, they start with their new business and startups. Is there something like that in Africa where youngsters are doing, or government is supporting some programs like this?
Many governments across the continent are engaged in the startups, particularly for the young people, the youth.
Yeah.
The problem is the access to funding.
Yeah.
All right. But we think that if we can codify certain policies and regulations into place, all right, it makes access to financing easy for everybody. Whether you're a young person, you're an older person, whether you're literate and all of that, the key thing is recovery. The banks loan money and they want the people's money, they want the money back. How do you achieve that recovery process has to do with the legal system, the court system. So bottom line, if you have a functional legal system for recovery, banks will lend money at an accommodating interest rate. But where you have situations where recovery is difficult, it becomes costly for the bank to lend money, then access to money becomes a difficult thing. So I think what we need to do, what governments need to do, is basically ensure that we have a functional legal recovery system that would aid access to funding.
Yeah. Sir, the whole countries of Africa and India, we have shared a same colonial history somehow, and we have been into the same colonizers also.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we snatched our freedom nearby years. So, what is the vision of youths in African countries, and how is it different? What you see, how is it different from Indian youth? Do you see any difference between Indian youths and African youths' vision?
Well, I think a youth is a youth, period.
Yeah.
There's aspirations, there's desires, and there's differences. My upbringing is completely different from your upbringing and all of that. So the the current processes, particularly say with this with Gen Z and other groups of categories of people these days, we, the older ones, have to pay close attention to the needs of the young people. And to do that, we have to empower them. So skill sets become a priority. Now, you mentioned the colonial period.
Yeah.
Yes, you have graduated from the colonial period. You're no longer beholden to the colonial period. Some of us, the older ones, are still beholden to the colonial practices because many of us
That mindset,
because we schooled there, we think we know better, and unfortunately, some of these concept of our so-called betterness has to do with control, discretion, and so forth, and all of that. But we need to open up our minds. We need to be more responsive to the youth, in particular, to the poor people, and we need to find ways, all right, of empowerment.
Yeah.
Okay, and that brings me to you graduating from the colonial period to what you have created today, that you have become a supplier.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a producer of the complete value chain and a supplier. All right, this is the missing gap in Africa. We have not done the capacity aspect of it in its full term. We have not created the supply chain. All right, so I think this is what makes a relationship, an intentional relationship between India and Africa more important. What do I mean by this? Since you have graduated, you know what it is it takes to build a vocational system.
Yeah.
You know what it takes to build a functional education system. Let me put it in that context. All right. I think Africa can learn from that, adapt, transform transform its own educational system, so that it is responsive to the needs of industry. When that happens, all right, Africa will be able to process their own raw materials on the continent. Africa would then have the skill sets through the other organization we work with. It's called the Africa Education Trust Fund.
Yeah.
All right. So if India is intentional in working with Africa in terms of helping to build capacity, in terms of partnership with local companies, in transforming the raw materials in the country, or the continent for that matter, utilize economies of scale. These things work favorably for India, because the value chain is extended, the domino effect is there.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation for everybody. There is more peace and security across the continent. In Africa, there is now a kind of synergy that everyone benefits from, an intentional program in consultation, in partnership. Let's use your school as an example.
Yeah.
All right. The film industry in Africa is picking up. All right. But do we have the complete strata of film of the industry? No. I just went through your animated program. All right. This is something that is needed for advertising, for other aspects of the marketing system, so forth. So your school could work with the African Education Trust Fund, okay, and look at a total picture of the entertainment and tourism industry. And there could be a two-way arrangement. It's not just train the trainers, but we can extend it beyond that. All right. So we're looking at this kind of relationship. We're talking with a number of universities. We hope to, at some point, meet with some government officials and sell this idea to them that, look, if you truly want to assist Africa, you want to contribute to Africa transition,
Yeah.
take it from the standpoint of capacity building. Let our universities, the educational system,
Yeah.
coordinate a program for the continent at large so that research can be done there. All kinds of activities can be there that is focused on revamping the education system. So that's what we're looking for. And I think that's what's meaningful to both continents, because this is a continent, to the
Yeah.
African continent.
We are already working in many fields of cooperation. I mean, India and African countries, be it any country, we are already working in many fields. Like African students are welcomed here in India and even here in AFT also. And there are students from there, and I think our government will start working more and more in this field. So what else you want from the Indian government to do in African countries to help the students, the new young generation who are upcoming and I think are of more of energy and enthusiasm? What kind of help would you expect from the Indian government or Indian people, say in general, be it private sector or public sector?
I am aware that the Indian government currently gives about 100 scholarships to each country across the continent. That is excellent. But I think that we need to look at it in a wholesome approach.
Yeah.
Okay, not individualized.
Yeah.
In terms of country relationship and so forth. We need to look at the total continent. What is it that that Africa needs today? The Agenda 2063 is very specific in terms of transforming African resources on the continent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have the complete skill sets to create that value chain addition? The answer is no. All right. So this what makes it that becomes necessary to take a wholesome, intentional approach by the Indian government to say, fine, this is what we'd like to do with you in Africa. We'd like to work with you in revamping your education system so that it is responsive to the skill sets needs of the continent. That skill set needs of the continent is tied directly to your resources. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, having resources and exporting your raw materials doesn't help the country. Mm-hmm. That is what was done for years under the so-called various types of concession agreements drafted by others.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Not by the Africans themselves. And at the time, people were limited in terms of understanding and appreciating, and those who had the experience and were willing to make some inroad were somehow sidelined. Mm-hmm. All right, but we have to look at it, what I refer to as the Industrial Revolution. Okay, the fourth Industrial Revolution will happen in Africa. Mm-hmm. But for that to be achieved, all right, India and other countries that are serious about working in Africa should have intentional minds in one, establishing a strong capacity system in terms of certification, qualification to meet the skill sets demand for both public and private sector. Then, once you do that, it becomes a chain reaction. We will address some of the uneasiness with the Gen Z people. Yeah. All right. Jobs be created across the continent. We'll be able to create that value chain. Yeah. Okay. And we can do that also by creating that enabling business environment where foreign companies would partner with local companies in Africa, mm-hmm. all right, mm-hmm. so that value chain comes into being. People have jobs. There's people are empowered, there's peace and security, there's a reduction in crisis across the continent. People can move very freely, do business very freely, that kind of thing. So that is the thrust of a functional education system. That is the thrust of a functional, strong private sector. We have these things in place. I think things would, Africa development would be accelerated. There will be peace and security across the continent, and people will be happy to go to Africa. I'm sure you'll be happy to come over.
I would love to come over. Just the time comes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for having such a beautiful conversation with us and coming here.
And thank you for having me. And I look forward to working with your institution as well as with government officials to make this happen.
Sure, indeed. So this was Mr. Wendell Addy in our studio. For such more updates, keep watching MSTV.
Thank you.